They say trust must be earned. Machiavelli believed it should be tested. In a world filled with false smiles and hidden agendas, spotting a lie isn't just helpful. It's essential for survival. Today we'll break down 7 psychological tactics inspired by the mind of Niccolò Machiavelli, the master of strategy, manipulation, and cold, calculated truth, to help you see through deception and uncover hidden intention. The unexpected agreement trap. Agree with the lie and let them walk right into their own downfall. This tactic is a silent psychological ambush. Subtle, disarming, devastatingly effective. It's built on one of Machiavelli's core principles. Don't attack deception head-on. Surround it. Here's how it works. You suspect someone is lying. Maybe they're hiding the truth, minimizing their involvement, or spinning a completely false narrative. But instead of confronting them or exposing the lie, you do the opposite. You pretend to accept their version of events, even when you know it's false. For example, someone says, "Yeah, I was home all night. Didn't go out once." But you already know they were spotted at a party. Instead of calling them out, you nod calmly and say, "Oh, makes sense. I figured you'd stay in." Now the trap is set, and they'll dig deeper into the lie on their own. Tactic 1. The scarcity shift. This is where the trap springs shut. Liars crave validation. They need to believe their lie has landed. So, when you nod in agreement, pretending to buy into their story, they relax, their defenses drop. Their confidence rises. And with it, they talk more. They'll begin to elaborate, offering new details, doubling down, even weaving more lies, all while thinking they've fooled you. And that's the genius of it. You're not confronting them, you're collecting data. They get sloppy, overconfident. You get clarity without conflict. Machiavelli knew that confronting a lie head-on makes people defensive. They dig in, deny, or deflect. But agreeing, that reverses the pressure. The liar feels safe, even in control, until they overplay their hand. And when you finally have enough contradictions, you can use the truth like a blade. Clean, calm, precise. Or, you don't confront them at all. Just knowing the truth gives you the upper hand in every future interaction. But there's a deeper strategy here. This tactic doesn't just expose lies, it reveals intent. Some lie out of insecurity, small, meaningless fabrications. Others lie to manipulate, to control. By playing along, you see how far they'll go. Will they stop at a harmless fibe or build an entire fantasy? You're not just testing their honesty, you're reading their character. Use this method when you want truth without drama. In relationships, negotiations, or leadership, it's a master's move. Disarming on the surface, lethal beneath it. Remember, the smartest move isn't spotting the lie, it's letting the liar reveal more than they ever meant to. Because the one who knows and says nothing holds all the power. The too much detail signal. Truth is simple. Lies are dressed up. Machiavelli understood a core flaw in human nature. When people lie, they overcompensate. And one of the biggest giveaways, too many details. Ask a truthful person, "Where were you last night?" They might say, "Just had dinner with some friends, got home around 10. Simple, direct, no fluff. But a liar, they panic inside. Their brain scrambles not just to answer but to convince. So instead, you get something like, "Oh, I went to that little Italian spot on Main, La Bella Roma, you know it. We got there around 6:40. I had the carbonara, she had penne arrabbiata. We left at maybe 8:17. Oh, and we bumped into James from high school." That's not conversation. That's camouflage. Here's what's really happening. Liars don't trust their story to stand on its own, so they build scaffolding, names, times, irrelevant side notes, all designed to distract and impress. They want you thinking no one would make up that many details, right? But that's exactly the point. The excess is the signal. Tactic 2. The no-benefit test. Here's where most liars trip up. They confuse volume with validity. They believe that the more they say, the more credible they'll seem. But Machiavelli would have smirked at this flaw in human nature. Because truth doesn't need embellishment. When you're honest, you're calm. You're not performing, you're not anxious, you're just answering. So what should you watch for? Overly precise time references. We left at exactly 9:42. I checked my watch. Unnecessary name drops or brand mentions. We went to that fancy cafe, the one with the imported Turkish lamps. Random story detours. Completely unrelated anecdotes that pull away from the actual question. Overloaded sensory details. The pasta was creamy. The lights were dim. Jazz was playing. Billie Holiday, I think. These don't always mean someone's lying. But when they show up suddenly, especially if the person seems nervous or overly eager to be believed, that's your cue to pause. Another warning signs. You try to change the subject and they pull the story back. That means they're invested, they're performing. They need you to buy the lie. But don't challenge them. Just watch. Let them speak. Every extra detail is more rope. Machiavelli never struck without patience. He studied, waited, and acted only when the illusion couldn't hold. Remember, liars decorate. Truth stands bare. So the next time someone gives you a monologue when all you asked for was a sentence, say nothing. Lean back. Let the house of details collapse under its own weight. The repetition test. The truth stays the same. A lie falls apart when repeated. Machiavelli didn't just study what people said. He watched what happened when they had to say it twice. And that's where this tactic shines. Here's how it works. Ask someone a question. Then hours or even days later, ask the same question again. But change the wording. Shift the context slightly. Then compare the answers. Why does this work? Because truth is memory-based. It's tied to real events. So even if the person is tired, distracted, or caught off guard, the core answer stays the same. But a lie, that's a story, and stories shift. Details drift. Timelines bend. Motivation changes. Example, you ask, when did you leave the office yesterday? They answer, around 5. I had to get home for dinner. Later in the week, bring it up casually. Man, traffic after 6 is brutal. You probably left around 6:15 the other day. Watch closely. A liar might respond, yeah, something like that. Or worse, actually, I didn't get out until almost 7. Now the cracks appear. The timeline shifts. The reason changes. And the mask begins to slip. This tactic is powerful for 2 reasons. Most lies are short-term inventions. They're built in the moment. Quick fixes. Liars struggle with consistency because there's no real memory to draw from. Only improvisation. Catch the inconsistency, and you've caught the lie. Tactic 3. The mirror of power. Liars rarely memorize their own lies because the story isn't real. So when you revisit the topic, even slightly reframed, they forget the details they gave. Truth doesn't need remembering. It simply gets recalled. But there's more. The second time you ask, it creates psychological tension. The liar feels it. A flicker of panic. Wait, what did I say last time? That uncertainty triggers over-explaining, hedging, or story shifts. Machiavelli himself used this tactic in court politics and diplomacy. He'd ask a rival noble a loaded question over dinner, then ask the noble's assistant the same question the next day. If the stories didn't align, he knew there was deception, and adjusted his strategy accordingly. This tactic is especially powerful in job interviews, legal interrogations, business negotiations, suspected cheating in relationships, any high-stakes conversation where truth matters. And the beauty? You don't have to act suspicious. Keep your tone light. Make it casual, because you're not interrogating. You're observing. A lie must be remembered, but the truth remembers itself. So don't just test for truth once. Test it twice. They might pass round 1, but by round 2, the cracks begin to show. Break eye contact. Suddenly, if a lie depends on your gaze, take it away. Machiavelli mastered psychological disarmament. He understood that liars don't rely solely on words, they rely on your reactions. They're not just telling a story, they're studying you. They watch your face, your nods, your subtle cues. Your attention is their performance mirror. Here's how to break that mirror. When they're delivering their key point mid-sentence, mid-lie, look away, check your phone, glance at the clock, fidget with something nearby. Act like your focus just drifted. What happens next is revealing. If they're telling the truth, they may pause briefly, but continue. They don't need your eyes. They're just sharing what happened. If they're lying, the shift throws them. You've taken away their mirror. They may repeat themselves, stumble over their words, over-explain, ask you listening, try to pull your attention back. This isn't rudeness, it's disruption. It destabilizes their control, because liars crave control over your attention, your perception, your belief. When you silently interrupt that, even just visually, you assert dominance. You're no longer a passive listener. You're an observer, and to a manipulator, that's threatening. They can't shape what they can't read. Use this in interviews, high-stakes meetings, any setting where you suspect performance over honesty. The liar depends on your focus. Take it away, and you take away their power. Tactic 4. The pressure play. In interviews, interrogations, or high-stakes conversations, sometimes it's not what you say, it's what you do that exposes the lie. Imagine you're in a meeting. A colleague nervously explains why a report wasn't filed on time. You're unsure. Is it guilt or just performance pressure? As they speak, you make a simple move. Look away. Check your watch. Scribble something down. Then look back. Watch what happens. If they suddenly stammer, repeat themselves, or seek your attention, you've just triggered a stress response tied to deceit. Honesty is steady. It stands alone. A lie craves your gaze. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He never attacked deception directly. He disrupted it silently, with precision. And that's exactly what this tactic does. It breaks the liar's grip on your attention, their hidden method of control, without you saying a word. The strategic silence move. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Machiavelli believed that power lies not just in speaking, but in withholding. And when dealing with liars, silence becomes a psychological weapon. Here's how it works. You ask a direct question. They answer. Maybe it sounds rehearsed, too polished, or shaky. Instead of responding, you do one thing. Nothing. No nod, no reaction, no follow-up, just quiet eye contact. At first, the silence is awkward. 3 seconds, 5, 10, and then something predictable happens. The liar starts talking again. Why? Because liars hate silence. To them, your silence feels like judgment, a void where validation should be. That panic drives them to fill the gap with more explanation, more details, and often more contradictions. Sometimes, they even confess. Machiavelli would call this passive pressure. You don't confront, you don't accuse, you simply withhold approval, and let discomfort do the rest. Example, someone says, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." Instead of replying, just look at them and wait. Watch the scramble. I mean, there was construction, and then my phone died. I couldn't even call, you know how it is. Now you have more to work with, more inconsistencies, more gaps, without uttering a word. Why does this work so well? Silence breaks the script. Liars rehearse what to say. They expect a rhythm. Question, answer, reaction. Silence disrupts that rhythm and forces improvisation, where cracks form. Silence creates internal pressure. Liars want to manage your perception. When you don't respond, they lose control of how you see them, and that loss of control creates anxiety. Silence signals power. Machiavelli knew the one most at ease with silence is the one who holds control. When you remain calm and composed, you become the judge, not the participant. Let their own words become the trap. You're not forcing the truth. You're letting it escape. Tactic 5. The unavailable truth. Let them speak into the silence. Because often, The truth isn't buried in answers. It's hidden in what people say when no one is asking. Use this tactic in subtle moments. After an excuse, after a denial, or even during casual conversation. When something just feels off. Don't press. Don't argue. Don't react. Just watch. Wait. Let the silence expand. Because the most skilled interrogator often says nothing at all. Why would you lie about that? Don't accuse, confuse. This is one of the most quietly devastating tactics in psychological strategy. Subtle, powerful, and disarming. You don't raise your voice. You don't say, "You're lying." Instead, in the calmest, most genuinely puzzled tone, you ask, "Why would you lie about that?" That's it. Soft, sincere, dangerous. Because this question doesn't scream, "I caught you." It whispers, "I don't believe you." Let's break down why this works. It shifts the focus from the lie to the intent. Most liars are ready to deny facts. "No, that's not true. I was definitely there." Some are even prepared to explain logistics, but very few are ready to explain why they would lie, especially when they're pretending not to have lied at all. This forces them to wrestle with motive. And when someone has to justify a lie, they claim they didn't tell. Their mental balance breaks. Watch for defensive overreactions. "I'm not lying. Why would you say that?" Confused stumbles. "Wait. What? I wouldn't." Emotional flare-ups. "Wow. Okay. Unbelievable." They're rattled. Not because you accused them, but because you quietly revealed doubt. It exposes what the lie is hiding. People lie to avoid pain, shame, or consequence. Not usually because they're skilled manipulators. This question drags their emotional motive into the open. Whether it's control, guilt, self-image, or fear, they now have to justify something beneath the surface. And your calmness doesn't match the conflict they anticipated, which makes it even more disarming. It protects you from backlash. You're not accusing, you're asking, which means they can't easily flip it on you. You haven't declared war. You've created quiet confusion. And confusion is power. Confrontation breeds enemies. Confusion keeps people guessing and makes liars uncomfortable. Even if they manage to talk their way through it, the damage is done. You've planted doubt, and most liars will withdraw, stop lying, or avoid you, because instinctively they now see you as dangerous. Not loud, not hostile, perceptive. Truth defends itself. Only lies panic under a calm question. The reverse psychology confession. Want the truth, make them feel safe enough to offer it. Machiavelli understood something most people still miss. People don't lie just to hide the truth. They lie to protect themselves, their image, their control, their sense of safety. And when you remove the sense of threat, when they feel unjudged, unchallenged, even understood, the truth often spills out on its own. Tactic 6. Loyalty by loss. People don't lie just to conceal facts. They lie to protect themselves. From judgment, from punishment, from shame. So how do you get through that emotional armor? You take away the threat. That's what this tactic does. It offers an emotional escape route. Instead of backing someone into a corner to confess, you give them a soft landing. "Look, honestly, I get it. I probably would have done the same thing. It's not even a big deal. I wouldn't blame you if it happened." These statements sound like compassion, but they're strategic empathy. They disarm, and liars, sensing that they're safe, are far more likely to reveal the truth, because they no longer fear punishment. Why it works. Emotional disarmament. Most people lie not because they're skilled, but because they're scared. Scared of consequences, judgment, or social backlash. So they build walls. Traditional confrontation only makes those walls stronger. But this tactic flips the script. It removes judgment. It says, "You're human. I understand." And that's when defenses lower, and the truth begins to leak out. They might say, "Okay, yeah, I didn't mean for it to happen. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as it sounds. That's psychological safety. The threat is gone. And so the lie becomes unnecessary. The Machiavellian layer. Control through sympathy. Machiavelli often disguised dominance as compassion. He knew, if someone believes you accept their flaws, they'll feel closer to you, and they'll trust you more deeply than they trust the ones who judge them. That's what this tactic does. You're not just offering acceptance. You're showing them their guilt isn't shameful. You're saying you're not the monster you think you are. That kind of emotional safety is powerful. Even manipulators, liars, or guilty friends will open up, not to those who confront them, but to those who make them feel safe in their shame. But make no mistake, this isn't softness. It's not naivety. It's strategic vulnerability, the kind that draws the truth out while keeping the control in your hands. Use this wisely, because once someone confesses under emotional safety, they'll feel bonded to you. You'll become the person they could be real with. And that gives you leverage, but it also gives you responsibility. So ask yourself, are you doing this to understand or to control? Machiavelli wouldn't judge either way. He'd simply remind you. People tell the truth to those who already forgave them. Words can lie. The body does. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't put his faith in language. He believed people say what's convenient, but show what's real. Today, science has a name for what he sensed centuries ago. Micro-expressions. Tactic 7. Cold silence response. Words lie. The body resists. These are the betrayals that flash in a fraction of a second. Tiny, involuntary facial expressions, or bodily movements that happen too fast to fake and too honest to hide. They're called micro-reactions, and they're your window into the truth. Here's how it works. You ask a simple loaded question. Were you with them last night? Did you already send that report? Is there something I should know? They answer smoothly, no, or yeah, of course. Their tone is steady. Their words are polished. But then, something flickers, a flash of fear in the eyes, a twitch of the lip, a jaw that tenses for a single beat. Shoulders stiffen, or breathing subtly shifts. These are emotional glitches, signals that the story being told doesn't match what's being felt inside. Why does this happen? Because while the mind can lie, the body is slower to follow. The conscious brain crafts a believable story, but the unconscious mind, the body, reacts as if the truth was spoken. And for a split second, it does. Micro why you must stop trusting words. Most people listen too closely to words, but skilled deceivers prepare their words. They rehearse the phrases. They fine-tune their tone. They even practice how to look sincere. What they can't practice, a flash of anxiety in the eyes, a tightening of the mouth, a subtle unconscious smirk after a successful lie. That's the tell. And that's what Machiavelli knew long before psychology had a name for it. The face reveals what the lips work hard to conceal. How to use this tactic. You don't need to be a psychologist or profiler. You just need to be still. Don't rush to accept their answer. Don't argue. Just watch. Because when someone is lying, they're watching you. They're gauging your belief. But if you go quiet, if you stop giving feedback, they lose their grip, and their body betrays them. What to look for? Fear, flash. Sudden, wide eyes for half a second. Lip compression. Tightening of the mouth right after speaking. Smirk flicker. A brief moment of satisfaction, away with it. Face touching or sudden fidgeting. A spike in anxiety. Voice lag. Delay between question and answer as their brain scrambles. These signs alone aren't proof, but when combined with other tactics, silence, repetition, or emotional disarmament, they confirm what your intuition already suspects. Listen less, observe more. The face doesn't lie as easily as the tongue. Machiavelli's genius wasn't in what people told him. It was in what they revealed without knowing. Learn to watch, and you'll never be deceived for long. Final words. Become the detector, not the victim. The mask always cracks. Not under accusation, but under silence. Because truth is rarely hidden perfectly. You just need to know where to look. Trust isn't given. It's inspected. The powerful don't guess who's lying. They observe. They test. They wait. Use these Machiavellian tactics not to harm, but to protect. To shield yourself from betrayal, manipulation, and hidden motives. Because in a world full of masks, the one who sees clearly rules silently.